Don't underestimate
The power
of a single
Conversation.
it could change your whole life.
INCRadio Chatline.
conversations that matter.
This is what I ask. Let me always dwell in the temple of the Lord till I bring my last.
Hello, everyone. Thanks again for tuning in with us. You're currently listening to INCRadio Chatline, where we like to have conversations that matter. And I'm Tony Rose Valenzuela, and today we're going to have a conversation that really matters that all of us can probably relate to, and that is about heartbreak. Okay, the shades of heartbreak. So different levels, and because there are different levels, because there's different aspects and facets to it, that's why we have a full house today. We have a full house, and I don't know who to introduce first, but I'm grateful that they're all with me. They're from all different places in the world. I'm from Sterling Heights, Michigan, but they're everywhere. They're not in the same state as me. I don't know. Maybe I should. Who's the farthest from me? Maybe I'll go to the farthest first, and then we'll. Well, actually, I don't even know between the two of you who's the farthest technically, because one of you's in the north, one of you's in the south. Is it you? Is it you? Maybe. Let's say hi to
I
him.
I I feel like you're alluding to me, so I'm gonna jump in. Hello everyone, my name is Lionel Ornado and I'm from Montclair, California, the southern part of California.
Yeah, that's probably farther. And then opposite you in the north, right? That's the north. We're in
Further
the north.
north.
Further north of Cali. Let's say hi to her.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melvi, and I'm glad to be back here on Chat Line. Thank you for having me once again. And I'm from Visalia, California, which is in the central part of California.
Okay, central, not quite north. I'm still trying to get my my grippings on geography here. But I know this next one out of the two of them, I know for sure who's still the farthest from me out of the two of them. That much I know. Let's say hi to her over there in Texas.
Hello, it's Arnie. I'm here in Fort Worth, Texas. I used to be in Northern California. See, so all of California is covered.
Very cool, very cool. And last but not least, the he's still far from me, but the closest.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Elson Ramala Cruz from Rockford, Illinois, also in the District of Great Lakes.
Very, very nice to have. I'm super grateful to have all of you with us today because I know that I can't just talk about this topic by myself because I think I would just weep throughout throughout the whole broadcast. But like I said earlier, we're talking about heartbreak today, and not just the typical idea that you might think of heartbreak, like, oh, I just got out of a relationship and I'm really beat up over that, like it's really gotten me down. That's one aspect to it, right? But there are other ways that we do experience heartbreak. But before we get into all of that, we did do kind of a poll, not really a poll, but a survey, if you will, asking people to kind of describe how heartbreak makes them feel or how it looks like. So these are some intense answers. If you can relate, you guys can chime in. One of the things that someone said was when you're hurting so much that it actually physically hurts. Yeah, I see everybody. I don't know if you can see everybody nodding, but they're all nodding in the panel. It actually physically hurts. And then someone else said when there's no tears left anymore. So you're kind of just maybe numb. I guess that would be
That's
another
more
way.
the aftermath of a heartbreak.
You think so?
I think so. I think that's more the aftermath than.
The way that I interpreted that was kind of like the feeling of just being numb after maybe receiving news that you just don't like. You've cried so much and then you reach a point where you just don't have like you can't feel anything anymore maybe. And then someone else said yung pain, this is a like Taglish, yung pain na you can feel as if the heart itself is wounded. So it's like masakit sa dibdib, like you actually like that twang, that pang in your heart, right? um this one hits home for me. um Feeling everything and nothing at the same time. And then he would the there was an attempt at levity and they commented not even not promoting a Snickers bar can help. So not even, like nothing could really cheer you.
Anything or anything.
Yeah. And then this last one, I think this is more in terms of, I guess, one of the ways that we could experience heartbreak is watching people you love suffer, knowing you can't take their pain away from them. I think that's like another manifestation of how we can experience heartbreak. Some others also said um, pet loss, fake friends, trusting someone who didn't have the same heart as them, when friends grow apart over time. Out of these different things, is there stuff on the list that resonates with any of you, or stuff that maybe wasn't on the list of the survey that you guys can add in ways that you've maybe not you personally. I mean, you're free to share if it's been you personally, but maybe stuff that you've seen or other ways that you've seen heartbreak just look like.
I'd say for me, a lot of my heartbreaks has revolved around rejections. I'll let you interpret what that means. So, to give one example, is in terms of like let's say job hunting. Uh, I I'll be the first to admit I don't have a very impressive resume, so I do kind of understand why a lot of places are like skeptical when hiring me. But it still does hurt like every time. It still does hurt. Like especially if it's a job that like I was looking forward to actually doing. Like I see an opening and then I apply because it's genuinely a job I wanted to get, and then you get that that email that says, "Oh, I'm sorry, you don't meet the minimum requirements." That I feel like that one hurts more when they say you don't meet the minimum requirements, because there's like a bar set and you didn't even meet the low bar that was set. So uh I would say a lot of my heartbreaks recently uh revolve around that.
Rejection. That's a good word. I think that covers a lot of different things, but we don't think of that right away.
Mhm.
Jobs. What about for everyone else? Whatever you're comfortable sharing, of course.
I think for me, it's permanent loss. So like, you could have loss with, I mean, like a heartbreak with like, let's say relationship or, um, you know, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. But then when you lose somebody, that's like permanent. That's never going to get fixed. With, let's say, relationships, you could either get back together or you could just find somebody else. But I think when you lose somebody who's really important to you, there's nothing else you can do. You can't bring them back, you can't talk to them again. You can't do anything, unlike other types of heartbreaks.
Got it. Yeah, can totally relate to that permanent loss. I'm already, I already feel it. We can all feel it, kind of. I think.
It's tough. It's tough to like lose someone, right?
Hmm.
It's one like you like from what you mentioned earlier about that feeling of numbness. Usually that might be the initial reaction, but when it hits, right, when the realization sets in, it's like when you like it's like falling like really far down, right? That feeling of like you feel like your heart just falls down to your stomach.
Hmm.
and
It's
and sometimes it's not even the initial reaction. Sometimes like many years could have passed, and
mm,
yet you could still feel that heartbreak
yeah.
because you're wishing that they were there, so
Hmm. Hmm.
What about for Melvi and Lionel? Any other ways that maybe hasn't been mentioned that you can think of?
For my personal experiences, it's relocating from one location to another. That one was heartbreaking for me ever since we were kids. So even if, let's say, I was from the Philippines and I was born there before coming here and becoming a U.S. citizen, we would move from one city to another, and it's hard because then you have to learn to adapt. You lose friends, and then you feel like you're constantly starting over. And then coming from the Philippines, and we moved to Saipan, and then from Guam, different cultures, different ways of living. We had to, I had to make the adjustments. It's heartbreaking when you grew up with friends already that you've developed over the years, that you've become so close to them like a family. Also, with relationships, I had to leave someone that I love and care about and moved here. And in the end, it just didn't work out because that person didn't believe in long distance relationship, even though I was willing to work it out or work things out. And eventually, you just have to move on and never look back, and hold on to the good memories, learn from it, grow from it, become stronger, and hopefully that one day you'll recover and find love again. So that for me was very hard, and every time I look back, I I would reminisce, and I told myself that hopefully someday soon I can settle finally one day to a place where I can call it real home, I guess you can say.
I just gotta say, Melvie, like I felt that when you said, uh, like it hurts when you're committed to like making things work out, but the other person is. And it's not that you have like any like feelings towards them, but it just hurts, right?
Oh yeah, it really hurts. It's one of those emotions where I've also learned to contain, but then burst at the same time when I'm
Mm.
ready to let things go. But you learn as you get older, when you encounter more experiences in life, you learn from others, and you have others supporting you and caring for you as well. So that really helps out a lot. So you that's it. It's called life.
Mm.
For sure.
Yeah, but
Can
when
I
you finally, learn or accept your whys and your purpose in life, it tremendously helps you moving on forward.
can I ask though, because you did bring up that idea of moving, was that loss of, I guess, the environment? Like, have any of you guys experienced that? Like the loss of, like, grieving a space that maybe, because I know that, like, moving homes, even when the homes weren't even my own, like if it was a house that I grew up in, and I just felt this deep sadness over not being able to go there anymore.
We move a lot. I think my family's Jersey, so we move a lot, and um, I think when I was younger, I reached a point where I made this resolve of not getting close to anyone, so it doesn't hurt when we move. Yeah,
Mm.
like where I treat it like it's just business. When we move to a different locale, the classmates I make, the people I meet, it's all it's just business. Like uh we're friends, but not really. I didn't make an effort to actually be close to them, and it was because of like during earlier in life, like I really got attached to like people, and then you have to move, you have to go to a different place, sometimes it's like really far away, and that was before social media was like a big thing. So uh like there was really no way to keep like in contact with the people. Half of their names I don't remember anymore. So even if we have social media now, I don't think I can find them
Yeah,
anymore, really.
no, it was really hard for me.
It's hard. It's hard.
It took 2 weeks until you get a response from your friends across, across the country, across the globe. So
I sure do hope they still remember me at least.
I'm
Even though I
sure they
don't,
do.
I don't remember most
It's
of them.
I feel like anytime we go through some kind of shift, it's kind of hard to. That's the reason why it's hard, right? That's the reason why it's challenging and difficult to let go of, because it's made such an impact on you, and in whatever way it is.
Mhm.
Um, Lionel, you're very quiet, so I don't know if you're
I'm
nervous to share, or you're processing.
it a
Not to
little
call
bit
you
of
out,
both.
sorry, I didn't mean to call you.
No, no, no. It's, I guess I could say it's a little bit of both. Uh, Fairly recently, I was able to experience, quite unfortunately, what everyone has been talking about: loss of a loved one, relationships that didn't pan out, um, rejection from a job that you thought you were a great fit, but wasn't able to move forward to the next stage. And right? It's like what was mentioned before. It's part of life, where we sort of got to roll with the hits, and make sure that we don't stay down. And what really matters is once we get knocked down, is that we stand back up, take that next step. You know, I think like the moving forward part, um, time is relative, is something that's a phrase that came across um, when dealing that I came across when dealing with life situations of life. Like people move at different paces, and we mentioned social media earlier. Social media doesn't really, um, I'd say, it's useful when we have like source of inspiration, but it's also detrimental to us if we start to compare ourselves to others, and we start to think that, oh, we're lagging behind, when reality, we're right where we're supposed to be at the right time. And it's something that took me quite a while to learn, and especially with going through life with all the different events. Sometimes it feels like you're constantly drawing the short straw, but it's just sort of um, an analogy that I came across online was that you're on a rubber band. And so the more negative things that happen to you, the more you're being pulled back. And then eventually you're going to get slingshot forward. And that's sort of how, I guess, like a one way that we could look at everything that's happening to us. And, always hoping for a better tomorrow.
Mhm.
Time does
Speechless.
not
You're
stop.
welcome.
Time doesn't
I'm
stop. And time goes on, just like what you mentioned. Time moves forward. Doesn't matter what we choose to do in our lives. That's the thing. You can choose to sit back and do nothing, but time will continue on going. So what do we choose?
And what I
Yeah.
notice about what both of you have kind of just brought up is that idea of acceptance, right? A lot of it kind of comes from that. And, we think about these different things of stuff that, is heartbreaking to us or stuff that breaks our heart. One of the other things that kind of came to mind when you were speaking, Lionel, is that idea of maybe a loss of a future that you envision for, whatever it is, XYZ, whether it could be just because of maybe health concerns or um, just how things panned out in your life, right? Like grieving that potential future that you could have had. And it makes me think of um, one of the ways that we might get through it is that idea of acceptance, of how you both are kind of saying, you kind of push forward. Did you guys, I guess, how did you get yourself that point, I guess, like in dealing with your which is it's such a loaded question to ask because everybody deals with their emotions and their grief differently, right? Their heartbreaks differently, but in what you have experienced, and you can detail however comfortable you are sharing. Arnie, I see you're like you're ready. You're ready. You're so ready.
We can
Right,
go to
when it
her first.
I just want to say, first of all, you guys are all young, okay? When you get older and you get to experience more things, you guys are going to look back and say, yes, my heart was broken, but it happened for a reason. Okay. I understand, like, at the point, it may be one of those where, oh, I don't want to do anything anymore. I can't go on, but I guarantee you, you can go on. And then when you guys look back at it, you're going to think, okay, why did I even lose sleep over that? And so I think as you get older and you start to realize the path your life was supposed to take, or you start to realize what is really more important, then it helps you cope with it, or like you said, accept it. Like for me, when I had relationships that failed, I always like wondered why. Like, I am such a nice person. I'm like always happy. I give all the time. And then now when I see how my life has been and how their life has been, and I'm like, oh, I dodged a bullet there, you know? And so when you start to see the positive in all the heartbreak, you'll start to realize, you know what? It really isn't that bad. And so, like I said, when you guys get older, because you guys are all very young, you'll start to realize that.
I just want to say, Arnie, that brought up like a memory that I had because there was, I would say, it's more not recent, but it's definitely a more recent memory where, uh, like a point of time in my life where I felt like like a lot of things were not really going my way. They were going the opposite, right? Where it felt like everything I tried failed. You know, it felt like maybe some people were like belittling belittling me. You know, they like were it like really felt like there was a lot of things that were challenging me, were testing me, but it uh like looking back at it now, it's that experience that really made me into like who I am now. And who I am now, it's something that I can be proud of. You know, I can say that I'm proud of where I'm at. I'm not perfect. I can see that there's still a lot of like improvements to be made, but like I owe it to that experience as well. Like, you know, like it's what you're saying. Like when you look back, you're like, I understand now. I understand why I had to go through that, right? Like like maybe you know, like I always see it that this way. Like when I'm like quote unquote knocked down a peg, you know, like I always see it as a way to let me know that there's still a lot for me to learn. You know, there's like I'm because I might be getting too confident to what's the right term to use for it? Too high on my station. That I needed to see that I'm not there yet. You know, I'm not at that level yet, and there's still a lot for me to learn before I get there. Right.
Yeah, we're all
You've
still
also had
going
a
through our
great. Oh,
character
sorry.
arcs.
Go ahead. Go
Sorry
ahead.
to
Go ahead, Tony.
interrupt you guys. No, I just wanted to, because it's also from what you said, Tony, earlier. And me, like while you were talking, it made me realize something that a lot of like my heartbreaks stemmed from expectations because I expected, you know, like with Lionel's example, and actually I said it as well earlier with in terms of like rejections towards like jobs, because I had that expectation of I'm gonna have this job that I enjoy, you know, I'm gonna be able to save up, you know, and like when it doesn't work out, it hurts more because I've already planned out 10 steps ahead. I already planned out 10 steps ahead of what I'm gonna do with this opportunity. You know, so it's just interesting because when you were talking, it made me realize that a lot of my heartbreak stemmed from me expecting or planning ahead when it's not yet sure. What's the term used for it? Like putting all my eggs in a basket.
Can I just say one thing that I hope might make you feel a little bit better? The technology now that a lot of companies use when they do the whole hiring process, it's not even a person. Okay. All your profile and everything's and put it in a computer. And if they don't see the keywords that they're looking for, even if you're qualified, they're going to reject you. So I don't want you to feel like people are rejecting you. It's this whole AI thing.
Huh. I did not know that. I just
Yeah. But just like what she said, use the keywords on the job description because you're going to get trained to do the job anyway.
Mhm.
Mhm,
So
That's
that's
what I
it.
realized. A lot of jobs do prefer
Yeah,
to
they
train
score
on
it
the
now,
job.
just like what Arnie said. Yep.
mhm.
I did not know that. That does make me feel a whole lot better.
Well, I'm glad.
But this is my question though, and I don't know if Lionel, what you were gonna say is gonna speak to this, but we kind of gain that perspective later on, right? Like to Arnie's point, it's like as you age, as you get more wisdom, you have those realizations. But when you're in that moment, like you heard the way people described heartbreak earlier, it's intense the way that they described it. How do you, when you're in that moment where you feel like you can't see through for whatever kind of heartbreak it is, right? It could be relationship, it could be loss, right? Loss can be really devastating where you can't see through. So how do you cope with it in that moment? Like, what are things that you guys have done to kind of, I guess, pull yourself out of it, or to ground yourself maybe a little bit through what you were going through? Thoughts?
Okay, so for me, um, being Christian, you're always taught like to trust God. And so when I would have like heartbreak when I was younger, yeah, you'd get upset and you'd take your anger out on the world or whatever. And then I just started to realize that, we don't hold our life. We can't control everything in our life. And so when I got to the realization that, hey, sometimes some of these heartbreaks are put there to make you stronger. Sometimes it's to teach you a lesson, or sometimes it's to guide you in the right path. And so when I started to realize that, and this worked like so well, like I was dating a guy for 15 years. And, you know, after the whole breakup thing, I'm like, okay, there's no way I'm going to get over this thing. But then the one thing I did, I honestly, and somebody had advised me, God can do anything. I literally prayed and I was like, okay, yeah, let's see what he can do, because I literally prayed, and just somehow I was sad that the relationship was over, but I didn't feel like my heart was broken anymore. And so I think, depending on your faith or what you believe in, I think knowing that there's a power out there that can help you, I think that really helped me a lot. And so from then on, when I would have heartbreaks from losses, from rejections of jobs and everything, that was the one thing I said. I'm like, you know what? I know I'm going to get through this, but I don't like to feel the heartbreak that I'm feeling. Can you please take it away? And somehow it gets taken away.
I'm emotional hearing that. I don't know why, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
We all became quiet after.
So, I do like a breath, and I
it
just
sparked something in me. Because I'm the type, when I fall for someone, it takes so many years to get over that person. Even when the person is already married, sometimes I still find myself hoping. I don't understand why, but it's horrible. It's a horrible feeling. So what I've done in the past couple of years is just like what Arnie also went through. I did the same exact thing. I immersed myself in regulating my emotions, accepting the truth, the hard truth, and also learning to move on forward by thinking, okay, if this is my if if me is the product of my creation at present, it doesn't mean it has to be the same for the future. I can still make those changes. I am capable of controlling that change within me. The factors around us, we can't. So, there are times, even especially now, social media, right? Oh, have you seen your ex so and so, or this guy you dated on this and this, and how can they easily move on? And of course, I just, brush off on my shoulders. I'm like, well, it's their loss, not mine. And you know what? It didn't work out. It didn't work out. Next, please. Sometimes I have to add humor to it. And just like Arnie, also, I prayed. I just, as Christians, somehow you just have to believe. Because if you don't, then negativity, the surrounding factors that constantly try to pull us down, will try to invade our peaceful space and try to get in our heads and then ruin the whole concentration thing. So I pray and meditate. I do a lot of, either sometimes I read books, I exercise, research, hang out with friends, like anything that would take away all these negative thoughts in my head. And especially right after, a heartbreak, the one thing I actually do is cry and eat ice cream, and then the next day I'm fine.
I was gonna say I don't know if any here is in like the type to go hard at the gym.
Because I don't want to have wrinkles. They don't deserve wrinkles or whatever else that's going to accumulate on my face or in my body just because they moved on and I haven't. It's not fair. So, I try and I humor myself. I think of the comparison. And at the end of the day, I tell myself, Melvi, you gotta choose. You want to choose good or you want to choose bad? You got two options, so that also helps.
Can I
And
just
again, I write down things a lot. I really do.
That's
It helps me. It really helps me regulate a lot of my emotions. So,
can
what
I
were you
just
gonna say, AJ?
Oh, sorry. Because I
sorry.
just wanted to add to what she was saying is like what worked for me, especially if it involves like another person, is asking myself how much of like how I'm feeling is caused by my perspective versus what's really their reason, right? Like let's say you got into a fight with one of your friends, right? Like one what I try to do in myself is ask myself, like maybe it's like something they said like I think we probably shouldn't talk to each other for a bit, like I can't interpret that in the way that, oh, they hate me, right? They hate me, so I'm gonna hate them too. Right? Or maybe they just mean it in a way that I need to put distance between us because I don't want to get mad at you, I don't want to yell at you, you know I want us to not talk for a little bit so we can calm down. That might be what they're thinking, but like in a heartbroken state, I might be thinking that, oh, they don't want to talk to me because they hate me. So
Mm,
what I try to do now is like ask myself how much of the hurt is coming from my own perspective of things, and that's
Yeah.
what I try to control. Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
No,
Line.
I was gonna agree with you, EJ. Like, a lot of it is being aware of our own emotions and sort of not to be like meta about it, but like sort of being like aware of your headspace and aware of how what you're feeling and what you're thinking. Because what Melvi mentioned earlier was like the negative thoughts that can easily become like a downward spiral that, it can really affect our day-to-day lives. And one thing that Arnie mentioned was the power of prayer. Like anything that, us as members of the Church of Christ, anything that we do, we accompany it with prayer. And if and we sort of just leave it up to God. And if it doesn't work out, then God has something better planned for us. And it's something that's kind of helps me, probably as well as you guys, get through heartbreak. Because heartbreak, everyone experiences it everyone slightly differently, and everyone moves at it, like I mentioned earlier, moves at a different pace. But one of the things that really helps is that power of prayer. And less stress, don't want to stress about it, and just try to move forward, not move on, because in my mind, moving on and moving forward is slightly different. Moving on meaning it means like you are like sort of discarding and like kind of forgetting what happened and like forgetting along the way. But when in reality, we should be moving forward. So then that way, um, we sort of learn from it. Like I mentioned earlier, it's part of a character building arc. So much so that look at the aqueducts in Italy. The it's not there, those things are built really well because they've stood the test of time. They're still around to this day, and we see like modern day infrastructure where they're like breaking almost every 10 years. Um, so as long as we sort of like build ourselves up to be um, better than we how we were before, and learning from it, and I think we will all end up in a better place than we were before.
that's an interesting metaphor of. I mean, I never thought to think of the aqueducts versus,
I was thinking
the
of arches. The only thing I could think of arches was
arches. Got it. Okay, makes sense.
Roman aqueducts.
And
I don't
and
know.
that's another thing that I do. I pick up my passport and I go because it's
Travel.
Flights, not
better than
feelings.
getting your heartbreak with gelato, pizza, paella, you name it, whatever country. I guarantee you, it's just gonna make you feel better.
So what are healthy ways that you guys have coped through a heartbreak? So we kind of mentioned like food, travel. What are other ways that you guys have liked how you cope through a heartbreak that you would recommend? Would recommend, okay, not wouldn't recommend. Travel's for sure a good one. I didn't think about that. Yeah, different like environment, right? Does definitely help, right, Arnie?
I think for me, laughter,
Okay.
because when you're sad, whether your heartbreak is for a loss or something that a relationship that was broken up, I don't want to feel like I'm going to be sad all the time. So I believe in laughter. What will I do? If there's any good romantic comedies on, I'll go watch a movie. Sometimes I'll go online and just go to my favorite comedians and play something, because once you start laughing, it's just going to make you feel better.
Mhm.
But if you just keep doing that whole self pity, it's not going to help you any. So laughter is always a medicine. And fortunately, at those times, I had young nieces and nephews where you could just have a conversation with them and it's going to be funny somehow.
That's sweet. What about I know EJ, what are your any final thoughts? I know you can't stick around with us for too much longer, but
Yeah, I just want to say, in relation to what Arnie said, distractions in general, like finding, uh, maybe distractions not the best word to use, but finding something to keep yourself busy at least for the time being. You know, while you're cooling down, you can come back to it. You can come back to it later to process it. You know, maybe when you're feeling a little bit better, because at the moment you might be feeling emotional. So something that would take your mind off it for a bit. Could be a movie, you know, if you're the type to take long walks, go ahead. Take a long walk, you know, take the nature in. You know, if you want, you can even pick up a hobby, like, you know, like while you're taking a walk, take photos for photography. Yeah, take up photos of like nature, right? You can do it, but keep your mind off it for a little bit, because when you're already like stressed, when you're already stressed out by what's going on, right? Whichever is causing you heartbreak, you're already stressed, you're feeling overwhelmed. You're not going to be able to solve it at that moment, right? Because you know, it doesn't help. It doesn't help that you're already stressed out and you're trying to solve it. You're not going to be able to, you know, you might not be even be able to, after that, right? There might be a lot more steps that you need to take before you get to the point of solving it. But, you know, like, you're definitely not going to be able to solve it at that moment. So at the very least, at the very least, do something to take your mind off it, to even help you calm down, cool down, a little bit, right? But it's not the solution. It's just one of the steps.
I'm super glad that you mentioned that because that totally hit me on the on the head. I've been the type that when I'm processing something difficult, I just want to get over it. And I think that a lot of us just
Oh
want
no,
that, right?
yeah,
Because
that's
we don't want to
mm,
prolong the pain that we're
mm,
feeling, or just that intensity, right? Whatever it may be. It's just kind of like I just want to get through this. I just want to
mm,
be
mm.
over it already, right? We kind of get in
It's
that
the
mindset.
no, I would say it's the human reaction to want to get over it like as soon as possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, at that moment, at that state that you're in that moment, you won't be able to. that speaking from personal experience, I've tried. You won't be able to. You won't be able to. You know. So at the very least, uh, help yourself speed up the process by at least helping yourself relax a little bit more, right?
Thanks for joining us, EJ. I know you can't stay with us, but that last insight was a nice way to kind of tie us into this next part, because what you guys have kind of mentioned already. One of them was like self awareness, right? I think that was mentioned, and then I guess to EJ's point, being patient with yourself through the heartbreak, like not what's the right word, like you're not rushing yourself to get
I
through it.
think what he tried to explain was to really take a step back breathe and reassess.
Mm.
Because, if we, what is it when if you try the same thing and you get the same results, but you're expecting something else,
Yeah.
that is,
Insanity.
yeah.
Yeah, they say that's insanity. Yeah.
I would do the insanity workout just to get over it. Chocolate bar ice cream. I'm just kidding.
No, the reason why I
I
mentioned the
have
gym
done that.
earlier.
I do. I have a tendency to do intense workouts or run as fast as I can on a treadmill, then go watch a movie, a comedy or a horror, and then learn to regulate my emotions at the end of the day. And I tell myself, Melvi, instead of blaming yourself, how about reframe your mindset and ask yourself, what can you learn from this? And what are those mistakes that you shouldn't make anymore from now on? Learn from your experiences, learn from the pain. It's going to be okay. This is me talking to myself, okay? I have to do that. Talk to myself and then just go about my day. Because just like everyone else said, things happen for a reason. And sometimes, again, God has his ways of redirecting our paths to where we're meant to be.
For sure. That's
Mhm.
our trust, right, as Christians.
Yeah.
And even though in the moment, right, the feelings may be overwhelming, or it might be incredibly difficult to see through, depending on what you're grieving, what you're trying to work through. It's good to think back on that, right? It's good to think back on us having our faith, and um, all of the stuff that we've mentioned are the good ways that we want to deal with it, right? We don't want to cope with a heartbreak in a way that will be detrimental to us, right? Which unfortunately that's something that can happen a lot of the time if we allow that emotion to overcome us. And it can be incredibly difficult, right, to separate it. But like what we mentioned, it takes time. And like what Arnie said, just maybe hop on a plane and and get, like, change of scenery, go somewhere, even if it's just drive somewhere different, just so that you can get yourself out of that space, right? Because I think a lot of it too is just you feel so much in what you're feeling, and it just feels like you're trapped in one space. But that change of perspective can really, whether it's seeing something different or maybe hearing, like, when you're talking with your friends, or like when you're laughing, it gets you out of that space, right? Kind of in that way.
And I think also remembering all the stuff that has happened in the past, sometimes it helps, because if you're going through something right now and then you think about, hey, I've kind of gone through something this similar and I got over it, then it helps you because, you can't completely forget everything, because
Right.
that's how we grow, is when we learn from it. And so if we were heartbroken once and we survived, then that gives us a little bit more hope than, okay, you know what? I shouldn't even let this get to me, because eventually I'll be okay. And so I think learning from the past also helps coping with things that you deal with.
Thanks for that reminder, Arnie. Um, there's a there's a song that made me think about that one when I was listening to you. Um, like looking back on the past and seeing what you've what you've made through, because that's probably why it helps to get older, right? So that you can see all the things that you've gone through, and the things that you've overcome it. But it takes you have to put in that effort, though. I just want to add that there, that it is on you to really do that. It is on us, and putting in the work, I guess, is what I would say. Like, even though it may not feel um, comfortable to do it, um, I think of it like choosing our hearts. Like, I could choose this heart of feeling this feeling, and or I could choose the heart of trying to work through the what it is, and putting in that effort to really, like what was said, you assess, and then you even think back and evaluate your situation. I'm like I'm processing my feelings as I as I am speaking right now. This is such an interesting discussion. I feel like you're going to say something.
And also having a support group. Okay, and I'm not saying like you got to have 20 friends or whatever. Sometimes you have friends who know you well enough to know that there's something wrong, but they're not
Mhm.
going to ask you what's wrong. They're just going to do everything they can to make you feel better. And if you want to talk about it, you can. There's a lot of times, like I'm the type who always helps out my friends. And so, when they have problems, I'm the one helping them. So when I have problems or heartbreaks or anything, I usually don't share it with anybody. But they can see the change in me. They can see I'm not as happy go lucky as I am. And they won't
Mhm.
ask me what's wrong. They're just going to say, hey, do you want to go to dinner? Do you want to go do something? And sometimes just having company just helps you because now you don't have to think about everything that's happened. But then you always have people there that you can rely on, even without you having to share what's going on.
Can I ask, because I mean, it's only Lionel. It's like three against one in terms of guys and girls. But I'm just curious, like, have your friends? Because I guess my tell is when I'm quiet. Like, do you guys have tells with your friends that something's wrong, or like that they can tell you're really going through something? Like, have you observed that in your friends? Like, oh, like something's going on.
Yeah, like I said, with me, I'm normally sociable, will talk to anybody and all that stuff. So when, like, especially like, let's say I'm sick and I don't do anything, my nephews are all like, Auntie, are you okay? And I'm
Oh,
like, yeah, fine. Goes, no, because usually you do this, you talk to strangers. They hate it when I talk to strangers, but when I don't talk to strangers, they're like, are you okay? Because you're not talking to anybody. So I think people who are close to you can tell. But like I said, kids will just ask anything. But then, like maybe your siblings or your friends, they won't ask you, but they can tell that something's wrong. They won't say what's wrong. They'll just try to see what they can do without asking what's wrong.
okay. Lionel, are you in a similar boat or as a guy? Like, is it the same? Is it? I'm just curious because I know guys like you guys kind of have your different way of processing things as well.
For me, it I'll be honest, I can be oblivious to a lot of things, but sometimes like just I'm trying to find another word other than aura. But like there's a feeling that's off about someone. And
Mhm.
I don't know for it no, I'm not saying this is for all guys, but um we sort of let them process it, and when they're ready to open up, you know, that's when we really have that heart to heart with one another. Because like processing feelings is can be can be challenging and can be tough, and sometimes it just takes time for us to sort of internalize it and be able to form coherent sentences, because like all these words will be jumbled up in my mind, and just bits and fragments of like what happened is still sort of jumbling around, but like once they all sort of merge together into like something that's we're ready to talk about, that's I think where um one of the conversations I enjoy, not really enjoy okay, I don't enjoy my friends going through heartbreak, but I do enjoy having heart to heart conversations with people.
Thanks for the clarification. Barney, Melby, you look like you're about to say something.
Well, I mean, like, I don't know if this is really the guy's perspective, but that is something that I do see with the guys. Sometimes, they'll just say, "Oh, she wasn't good enough for you," trying to make the guy feel better. Because I
Yeah,
think sometimes when you boost their ego, it kind of helps them even more. And then, like you said, Lionel, once they that have that confidence again, then that's usually the time that they like to share. But I always see in the beginning, they're always like, you could do better," things like that.
got it, got it.
Yeah, and I wanted to add one more thing to, I guess, to our listeners, that what Arnie mentioned was a support group is, being there for someone when something's wrong, but not pushing them or rushing them into, opening up, because, everyone goes through it differently. And um, I believe, I'm trying to remember, we used to say this word a lot during elementary school, is I want to say empathy. we should all try to have a little empathy with one another to sort of, because it really helps when someone is there, and when you're ready to open up, they can not necessarily entirely relate, but they are someone who can, hear you out and maybe even give a couple words of advice, and really being for us listeners to listen to what they have to say, because sometimes just being there for them, not saying a word, can really help a lot.
I'm glad that you brought that up, Lionel, because I've been on the friend side, and I think for our listeners, it's helpful to also know what to do, for our friends and our loved ones when they're experiencing heartbreak. I'm glad that you brought that up because I've I'm I guess in the same way with myself that I just want to get through it and get over it. It's hard. That's why I related earlier to that, to heartbreak also being seeing someone that you love like going through heartbreak. You want them to be able to get through it and get over it. And that's something to really be mindful of, is to not push. And what I've tried to tell myself is that, or not myself, but what I try to tell them and remind them, that you don't even like, it doesn't have to be a conversation that we need to have, but I'm an option. Like I always tell that to them, like, you don't have to, but I'm an option when you need it. And it reminds me of a post that I saw where someone, because my heartbreak is more about like loss in terms of like permanent loss, like what Arnie brought up earlier. And what I really liked about a post that I saw was that idea of, I think one of you mentioned it too, is that idea of consistency in someone's life. Like, even if it's just like a message, like it doesn't have to be like anything. It's just like, hi, no obligations to reply. It's just, I'm here. Hey, like that stuff is super helpful. And like having that consistency, even if it's not like an everyday thing, but every once in a while, it does help, because you're reassured that, like, oh yeah, this person's there. Like, they are present in my life, and it helps. So thanks for saying that. You're all making me emotional today. I haven't cried yet, but I feel it like here. I feel it here. Belby, any thoughts on this? Like, that being on the other end, like, of helping others when they've been in heartbreak.
I've been both in both on both sides where I've seen my friends also go through a lot of pain, and then vice versa on my end to their end. And the funny thing is, there are four of us in the group, and we all grew up together. So we basically have known each other most of our lives. We can't keep any secrets. Apparently, when one is a psychologist, I feel like she's just reading all of our gestures and movements. And sometimes I feel like I'm being scrutinized. And I would tell her, could you please stop giving me that look? I know what you're going to say. I feel like I know what you're thinking. I can hear it, but you're not saying it, but I can hear it in my ears. But yeah, we just find humor in it. And the thing is, all of them are already married. And so they're just waiting on me. And sometimes when they're talking about their husbands and we're all together, when we reunite, they feel as if I feel left out. And I would tell them, no, don't feel that way. So when I first said that years ago, when we first got together, because now we're all in separate places, we would still FaceTime, we would connect through social media. And, our friendship has blossomed to where we feel like we're all sisters now, even though we're all different ages as well. Not too many years apart, but it's good to have their support and vice versa. We're now to a point where we don't even need words. They just send me gifts or memes and funny stuff, whatever. And then I would already feel good. I'm now comforted. So they already know me, I know them. We know when we need words of encouragement, or sometimes they just show up in front of my door. Knock, knock, knock. Hey, we're here, or I'm here. You don't have to say anything, but could you please just go out and hang out with us and have a great time? That's it. We don't need to have this heart to heart conversation. Just being there for you, for me, or me being there for them is already good enough. So when have that, when you have that relationship together as best friends, then you know that you'll always have them by your side no matter what. and they'll continue to care for you, love you, no matter what path you choose in life. And that for me is very heartwarming. I feel so blessed to have them.
Support system, guys, helps. Find your people. Find your people. But what I will ask, because we've talked a lot about the going through the motions of just everything, right? And we've all agreed that we do eventually get to a point where we've moved on, and we've gotten over whatever it is, that however long it may take. Now, my question is, regardless of what caused your heartbreak, if you can think of a situation where you went through, what did you look like after? Not like, just not physically necessarily, but what did you as a person look like? Like, what, how do you think you changed after that? How did it change you, and in good ways and bad ways, and what did you do to get to a point where you saw yourself, I guess, grow from it in the aftermath? Like, what did your aftermath look like after the heartbreak, and how did you get yourself to get to a point that you grew from it? Like, was there lessons that you learned from the situation? Was there, did you have a moment where, like, you decided, this is who I want to be coming out of this? Because I feel like for me, that's been my thing. like recently, I feel like I spent so much time kind of beating myself up about how I was feeling and not really processing what I was feeling. And then I eventually, processed what I was feeling. And then I got to a point where I was like, okay, I need to stop doing this and sulking, or like not doing anything about it, right? And then making a decision to be someone that I wanted to be coming out of that. I guess that's the point that I'm getting at with your different experiences. Like, did you guys have something like that, like a growing moment?
So for me, like I think my biggest heartbreak was my grandma passing, because she just wasn't my grandma. She actually raised us, to the point where even I remember as a child, whenever I would be sad, I can go to her room and sleep with her. And, it didn't matter how crowded the bed was, she would let us do that. So losing her, I think, was the hardest heartbreak I ever had. And that was one thing I didn't think I could get over. And it's been, I want to say, 20 years now. And even to this day, sometimes when I think about her, my heart still breaks. But the one thing that she did was, for her, family was everything. Um, every Sunday, we had to have dinner at her house. It didn't matter where you lived, everyone had to gather. She wouldn't let family fight, she wouldn't let us do anything. So we always had to be a cohesive. And she had 12 kids, okay? So there's 32 of us cousins. And so she raised us all together. And so I saw like how much effort she put into the whole family unit. And so, growing up, I was like, oh no, I'm Miss Independent. I'm just going to go here. I'm going to go there. I'm going to do whatever I want. But, after she had passed and I saw um, all the different things that she's done, it kind of made me say, want to be the better person. For example, people would talk about her and say bad things about her, but she would never be mad at them. I'm like, why are you nice to her? She's like so mean to you. She talks about you behind her back. But she says, no, you have to love everybody. You have to care for everybody. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But then I start to realize that it's true, because you start holding all these grudges and everything. It doesn't make you feel any better. And then with the whole family unit, even though I've moved away from home, I will always make it a point where I get to go back home to California to go spend time with my cousins, with my family. Whenever there's family parties, I will take the time to go there, because I don't want that what she tried to instill in us to be wasted. And so for me, my goal is to do that, is to share with everybody and say, hey, we still have to get together. I know everyone's got lives, everyone's got kids now and everything, but we still have to make a point to see each other. And she always wanted to help people. And so even though it doesn't matter how poor you are, you're still going to help people if you have the means. And so what I saw in her made me kind of want to be like her. And so it helped me look at things in a different way. And I think that helped me deal with a lot of the stuff that I had to deal with.
I keep doing that because I'm trying to. I guess that's my way of coping as we move through this broadcast. Okay, thanks for that, Arnie. Melvi or Lionel, any thoughts on this one? Like finding yourself, like in the aftermath. Your growing moment from the heartbreak. What does that look like? Who are you afterwards? Like, how are you? How have you changed?
I'm very observant in my surroundings, and I can't help it sometimes. And sometimes I wish I could just close my eyes and deal with my own issues and whatnot. But when when people or when I've experienced between permanent loss, heartbreaks, but mostly the permanent loss because that one's painful. You can't when you can't see somebody anymore that means so much to you. I can relate with Arnie because my grandfather just passed away not too long ago. And we were very close. He was such a cool grandpa. They called him Grandpa Groovy. His nickname in our local congregation. He was always smiling. It doesn't matter if there's an earthquake, there's a storm, there's people dying, which I did not get for some reason. But then, just like Arnie, he also instilled in me. And I think I saw it in somewhere, either in a quote or I read it somewhere that he said to realize that when you die once, but when you're still alive, you can live in so many ways. What do you choose? Because what if you don't have that opportunity anymore, and all you're doing is worrying every day? You wake up, you're angry, you're sad, it hurts. Yes, life can be filled with many obstacles, and above all, you lose people, you get heartbreaks. So what if relationships don't work out? He always tells me, so what? Get up and live and do what you need to do because you have something to look forward to. Because once you don't wake up anymore, it's gone. It's done deal. So what have you got to lose? Yes, I get it because he did see me. He saw me. He caught me actually crying in a small room. I was in pain, and even when I was young, before he moved here in California with us, even when I was young, I always bottle up my emotions. I didn't know how to express myself. Now, when I'm able to, or as I got older, I've learned to now express my emotions, regulate them, and learn from my mistakes. But when I was young, I would always cry, always cry. I didn't know how to talk to people. I didn't know what to say, what to do. Even my younger sister would tell my parents, "She's hungry. Do you not see her? She's crying. That means she's hungry." Because I couldn't say I was hungry. So bad it got. I was so shy. I didn't want to talk, and I didn't want to bother anyone. So I was just in my own little world. But Grandpa, for some reason, connected with me, and when he took his last breath right next to me, that was very heartbreaking because I'm not a nurse. This is why I can't be a nurse in the office, but my whole family they got into nursing, and I instead of instead of mourning, instead of bawling like I normally do, I actually kissed his forehead and I told him, "Thank you. You can rest now. Thank you for making me the person I am now, for influencing me in such a good way that now I'm going to be able to pass it on to others as well, whatever you taught me in my life." And that's all about living, is when we're able to also share our experiences like this broadcast, each other's experiences. We learn from each other, we learn from others, we get to grow, we get to improve our lives, and we have all the tools, equipments, and resources. All we need, it's out there. We have something to hold on to, that as long as we have a chance and opportunity to make a difference also in people's lives, why not do it, including our lives, so we can, live fully. That's what I can say.
I just keep exhaling after all of you speak. Lionel, this is really good, guys.
All right, let's see if I can match. Oh, those are two
No
very,
pressure.
very good answers. Oh
I
my
know,
God,
no pressure.
no pressure. Um, in regards to your question, Tony, about um, sort of the different person or like the aftermath of a heartbreak, um, it's sort of how I try to put myself on. I mean, we try to put ourselves on an upward trajectory coming out of it. Um, during I guess like high school, middle school times, I was sort of that friend who was never in a relationship, but would always give great relationship advice. I was that person, um, and not even just relationship advice, but also life advice. Is because I hear so many stories of other people that sort of internalize it and sort of make it a part of myself where I'm able to pull from other people's experience, able to apply it to my own life. And growing up, I guess now that I'm older, it's instead of me, like if I'm going through things, I sort of talk to myself in like not out loud because you don't want people to think that we're crazy, but we sort of talk to myself like in my mind, like as if I'm like looking at myself, like, come on, man, you can do this. We've gone through worse, and being able to sort of talk myself up towards like what I said, an upward trajectory, and being able to help. Um, I guess the term that was mentioned earlier was pulling myself by my bootstraps and helping out with getting into the right mindset coming out of the aftermath, coming out of the heartbreak is okay. What happened? What can we learn from it? And how can we apply it to ourselves moving forward? And it's sort of just those three steps that I take every time I go through something. Like, okay, what happened? What Try to assess what happened, and what did I do? What steps did I take what steps did I take, or what can I take to move forward, and and try to remember it for the next time, because we are a collection of our own experiences, and if we can't pull from our past experiences, and then it's you know, not to say worthless, but essentially like it didn't really happen for us. And as much as I say that my memory is not the best, I'll admit, right? I usually joke saying that I live life into short-term memory, um, but I try to internalize and try to remember everything to be able to you know live life to the best of my ability. Yeah.
I know. I think Arnie had one more thing to share.
Just for me, you know, as long as we're alive, as long as we have a heart, as long as we care, as long as we love, we're always going to get heartbreaks. Whether they're small heartbreaks or big heartbreaks, it's going to happen. But the one thing that we have to remember is one, there's nothing so devastating that we can't get through it. And so I know with some people, they take drastic measures and feel like this is not something they could overcome, and they'll do things that they can't take back. But just knowing that it does not matter what we go through, it doesn't matter what comes our way, our heart's going to heal. That it was meant to heal. It's not going to be broken forever. And if we realize that, then, hopefully that would give us hope that, hey, I'll get over this eventually. I'll be better, instead of the alternative where people lose hope and feel like they have no way out.
I feel like what this podcast broadcast has been is both of you, all of you, are just comforting me through through my questions, and with
We're
your
here for
answers.
you, Tony. We are your support group.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Lionel. No, I honestly, the if I were to summarize a lot of what you guys have said is really being able to to look beyond just the current moment, right? Like it's not that you're ignoring it, right? We're not ignoring like what our feelings are, but being able to have both that duality of yes, this is what I'm feeling, and yes, it's painful, but there's something still beyond this for me. And the proof of that is that I'm still alive, right? Because we believe that God is the one who holds our life. And as Christians, we put our trust in that as long as we have the wake ups, there's more for us to do. And to Lionel's point, what's important is that we take the time to still learn from whatever the thing may be that we experienced, how good it was, how difficult it was, making sure that we're able to assess the situation and take something with it. Still, it could be values from the ones that we loved. It could be learning how to control our emotions, as Melvi said, not to the point that we just don't feel them at all, but knowing how to, as you said, regulate them, when knowing how to not let it overcome us. So I hope that those who have listened to today's broadcast, because heartbreak, we probably didn't even mention all the ways that, heartbreak can happen, and the different ways that it can, I guess, manifest in our life. But like what Arnie said, we can't avoid it. We can't avoid it, right? It happens in different ways that we may not even expect, but we can find our way out of it, right? That's the bottom line. And we do that, especially for us as Christians. We trust that we can do that with God's help. And sometimes it'll take more work. Sometimes it'll take it might take longer than you want it to, right? But it's important that we still hold on to ourselves as we're moving through it, and believe that God will take care of us through the good and bad, as long as we continue to do what's right. So thank you, everyone, for comforting me through today's broadcast. And I hope that even those who are listening, who've been commenting there in the live chat, that you've also been comforted through this talk. It's not an easy topic. Um, Maybe we can do a part two. I don't know. I don't know if this would warrant a part two. It seems like a topic that everybody can relate to. So thank you to my co-panelists for joining today's conversation, for all of the advice that you've given. And I really hope that, those who are out there, that you've benefited from today's broadcast, and that this has been a conversation that really mattered to you. And of course, we want to hear more conversations that matter to you. So comment below. Let us know what topics, yeah, comment below. For real, comment below. Let us know. We want to know what potential topics that we could talk about here in the panel that are important for you, for all of us to hear. So until next time, this has been INC Radio Chatline. Bye bye, everyone.
This is what I ask. Let me always dwell